Hey there, welcome back. It's been a minute. Season 14 of VBL-S ended in a pretty spectacular fashion with a Slowking Galar sweep across the nation, thoroughly manhandling Volcania, just kidding, not Volcania, thoroughly manhandling Volcarona and Palafins across its path. Unfortunately, this was not my Slowking Galar, which got knocked out in the conference finals, but good job to Jordan and his combo of Glowking plus Archaludon plus a very similarly structured team. So in a way, we did win a spiritual battle last season. So can't be too unhappy with that. And last season was so much fun. I gotta give it out to all the coaches for making it a great time. It's always fun, and last season was particularly exciting. But have you ever had a season that was so good you want to do it again? It's time for another daddy plan. What we do with the daddy plan is a very unique thing to the VBL-S. I'm sure other people maybe do it, but I've never seen it before. So what we do is a daddy plan. And this is essentially just a redo of last season's draft, but anything that was on the board that got, it was a little bit different this time because we did two draft pools as opposed to the last one where we only had one. But basically, if a Mon was drafted once in Season 14 and played more than 3 games, it was banned. And if a Mon was drafted twice across both conferences and saw more than 5 games of play, it was banned. So this severely cuts things off the format and really limits us to get creative and forces us to play with Mons that we've never considered drafting before. And I definitely have a couple of my team that I had never thought of ever using before. So it's a really creative format because you still have some upper tier Mons left behind from the previous format. I know on our first daddy plan like 2-3 years ago, we had Politoed left behind, which is a really solid Pokemon. And then like the next strongest thing was maybe Zapdos. And then there was a huge gap before the rest of the mid tier started showing up. So this season is somewhat similar, and we'll talk about that in the draft board. So this is our Season 14 draft board for one of our 2 conferences. I don't remember which this is from. But basically, anything you see here that was drafted and saw more than this predetermined amount of play based on how many times it was drafted is back on the board. So take a mental screenshot. This is Season 14. And then this is our top tiers for Season 15. And we did this post-draft, and as you can see, everybody was really thirsting for some top tiers because every single one of these Mons got picked. Even Victoryville, which is crazy. But one thing that it is important to note here is that some of these Mons were drafted last season. So like, for example, Espathra and GLIMMORA. Last season, you can see they both got picked, but whichever team they were on decided they weren't part of the game plan enough weeks where we're giving them a second shot this time around. Before we go on, we do what we're going to do for every format. We're going to analyze the typing and how the format looks. So starting off with our type Pareto, grass types up at the top again. Not too shocking. There's a lot of grass types, especially in Scarlet and Violet. It's not the most... And, this is also filtered for anything that's like a usable Mon, so 2 points and up. There's a whole bunch of grass types left behind, and there are seriously like no fairy types. I think it's 11 fairy types, more than 1 point, and it's pretty rough pickings out there. A lot of the other good types are pretty low as well. Dragon, Electric did a good job of knocking a lot of dragons out of contention for the season by picking up a team a couple weeks in and then swapping it all out for dragons and playing them as hard as they possibly could. So pretty dragon-free this format too, alongside Steel. You're never going to have much Steel in a format like this because, hey, Steel and Fairy are 2 of the best types. Who would have thunk it? So this is the relative percent change chart. This is another good way to look at things between seasons. And so what this is, if you hit solidly at 0, your percentage makeup of the format is the same as it was last season. So the closest thing to that is normal. I don't know the exact numbers on either side, but whatever it was, the amount of normals this season is about the same as the number of normals last season, percentage-wise. What we can see is that Fairy falls off an absolute cliff down like 33%, 36%, which is pretty significant. And that makes sense, right? Fairies are great Pokemon, so a lot of the good ones are going to get drafted and used. And Rock is the biggest winner, which is also pretty fitting. A historically subpar typing, you might say. And there's a lot of rocks left behind on the board, and their numbers are big up this season. So we're going to see how that plays, especially considering that fighting is also one of the biggest up types, who's a pretty solid counter to rock. So pretty interesting changes all in all. Rock being up big is a pretty unique change here, so we'll see how that plays out. Looking at our average defensive and offensive profiles, hey, Fairy Steel's the best one. Crazy, right? Could have never predicted it. Ice Ground, also the best offensive type. It's not like I've seen this for 3 seasons in a row. And number 1 is Flying Steel. I think that might have been the same from last season or not. Either way, none of these are very shocking. but the usual goats are on top. In terms of average stats, this is one of the interesting things. You might want to compare this between last season on the season 14 draft review. The average, and again, remember, these are all for Mons more than 1 point. So everything on here is I consider somewhat usable. The median attack stat is 85, which is Cramorant level, and the median special attack stat is 74. You wouldn't typically expect Chestnut to be noted for its special attack, but in this format, it's dead on the average. So, I mean, maybe it's the time for a special attack in Chestnut, you never know. The offensive stats are pretty significantly lower than they were last season, especially special attack. That's brutal. In terms of defenses, it's again pretty dang low. The effective neither of these Pokemon here are defensive stalwarts, I'll tell you that. Ninetales is about as physically bulky on average, and Raichu is your average special bulk, which is pretty depressing, all things considered. So if you're looking to build a stall team, this might not be the time to do it. It's funny here on this chart, though, just how crazy different Blissey is compared to everything else. That one little dot all the way up there, that's her. And then we have the Avalugg twins out here for physical bulk. And lastly, for speed, this is pretty standard. This is like a pretty common average, or not average, pretty common median speed stat of 70, so our boy Skarmory is right dab middle in the pack. So, without further ado, let's have a little bit of a drum roll and take a look at what I drafted for round 1 of the Season 15 draft. For round 1, we went off with GLIMMORA. This is the Mon I've drafted more than anything else in my draft career. I think this is just the coolest Mon. And last time I used it was in one of the worst performing seasons I've ever had, so you know, it needs a redemption arc. So GLIMMORA here, you know these stats, you know it well. Pretty damn scary special attack. This is 99th percentile for the format. Almost double the the average special attack in the format with a beefy 130 special attack. And overall, just really high stats. There's a reason this thing was the most expensive Mon on the board. Also, funnily enough, I was talking earlier about how Rock type was way overrepresented this season compared to last. Across the 32 coaches we're playing, I think it was 7 or 8 of us all first picked Rock types, which has never happened before, and will probably never happen again. But yeah, either way, I was going to pick Garganacl, Cleaver, or GLIMMORA. So yep, I was picking a Rock any way you slice it. So you know what GLIMMORA does, you know what, you love it. Meteor Beam, slow stuff with Mortal Spin, spread poison everywhere, spread spikes, have a great time. For pick 2, I was already looking at Mons that I had never considered drafting before, and Torterra was originally nowhere on my radar from preseason, like looking around the board, oh, this looks good, that looks good. I never looked at Torterra. But after I picked up GLIMMORA and realized I wanted something offensive on the physical side, and I wanted the ground type, because whenever I don't draft a ground type, I really feel it, and Torterra is just kind of crazy for what we had left on the board. I think it's the second highest attack stat on the ground type. I think Donphan beats it, and I believe that's it. But Torterra is superbly bulky on top of that. 93rd percentile for defense. Its special defense is well above average as well. Its total bulk is just astounding given it's a big turtle, which, you know, makes sense. It also offers a lot offensively and defensively. Grounded Grass is a pretty decent typing defensively, honestly. Ground resist is always great, and its flying weakness, which we'll see plenty of that, is mitigated by GLIMMORA, so a little bit of synergy right there. But mainly what we're looking for is just the offense that this thing provides. Did you guys know that Torterra learns Shell Smash in Gen 9? Crazy, right? So yeah, we have a Shell Smasher right here at 56 speed, which once you double that, you're basically the fastest thing in the format. So pair that with Earthquakes, Wood Hammers, whatever other coverage move you need, and Torterra is doing tons of damage. Alternatively, you can just run a slow set with, hey, Leech Seed and Iron Defense and Body Press. It's amazing. It's so flexible in just a couple rolls it needs to do, and I think it's a superb pick, and can really do a lot of flexible things with its honestly pretty good move pool. For pick number 3, we have another Pokemon that I have never looked twice at. Espathra, despite being one of the ugliest Mons in Scarlet and Violet, I think it's pretty good. Obviously, it's pretty good as Band and Signals, so right, that makes it good in VGC. What does Espathra do? It is really fast. It is really, really fast. Before Speed Boost activates, I'm already in the 90th percentile for speed. After Speed Boost, you're off to the races, outspeeding basically everything. Yeah, Espathra's great. And when you pair Lumina Crash, which is a busted signature move, next to something as powerful as GLIMMORA, you don't even need to go Meteor Beam. You could be picking up Okos with an Assault Vest set, with a Focus Sash set, And then, Espathra's going to be setting screens for it, and Torterra providing extra longevity to make use of the special attack boost from Meteor Beam, giving Torterra extra time to live with a Shell Smash. It's just awesome. Espathra doesn't have that many offensive moves, but, that's not its sole purpose, right? And we have Psychic, we have Dazzling Gleam, that's all we need. You have Terra Blast, flexibility in there, so Espathra's a really powerful mon that I definitely haven't seen perform super well in quite a while, so I think this is going to be its time to pull some crazy moves here this season. Next, we have Emboar, and just a little exercise for the viewer. You should go run some Emboar, Terrifier, Reckless, Flare Blitz calcs. It's really fun. Having a mon that does so much damage is always nice to have on the team, and it's one of the most powerful physical attackers in the format. Obviously, you can't really factor in the Reckless, well, you could, but even factoring in Reckless, I think it's probably one of the highest, just straight up, maybe top 5 in terms of physical offense, and it also has a really wide move pool. Look at how many boxes this thing checks. Obviously, its defenses aren't so great, but it has a really high HP, so that balances it out quite a bit, makes it easier to customize your defenses for what you need them to be week to week. And if you want to use this thing more supportively and not just blow yourself up while nuking your opponent with Reckless, you can just go run Blaze. I do have 2 starters on my team. I can do pledge stuff, and 100 special attack is actually not too bad. I could see myself running a special Emboar week to week if I need it for more utility stuff. Because hey, this thing also learns Scald. That's a lot of fun. Well, not for them, but for me it is. Yeah, Emboar's a great mon. It's a pretty good user of Terra too, but honestly, it's just big, powerful offense that also has the flex option to be a supportive Juggernaut. For pick number 5, I love my T-Ghosts, so we're going with Sinistra's British cousin, Poltegeist, this season, who actually is the strongest special attacker in the format. Crazy. I'm surprised this thing lasted till round 5. I know I sniped, I want to say it was Firefalls was looking at picking this up, so I got them back for stealing Superior, who was going to be my round 2 pick. So, all good. But what do we like about Poltegeist? Hey, it's another mon that learns Shell Smash. That's really cool and super threatening. Shell Smash with 70 speed is like premium. Nothing resists Ghost, because somebody named Sukaba may have drafted and used every single dark type in the format last season, so Ghost Stab is looking pretty damn near unresisted. Unless you want to tear it into a normal type, and then Emboar is right there looking at you, so that's a bit spooky. What do we like else about Poltegeist? What does it do? You have a mon called Espathra that hits things with, Lumina Crash, cuts their special defense in half, the Blast with Shadow Ball. You could also use things that are fast and use Thunder Wave. Honestly, Espathra doesn't have that, but maybe something later will. For Hex damage, just Poltegeist looks really good. It did pretty well against me in the low tier season, I remember, so I'm happy to use this thing and looking forward to it. Obviously, a big threat that everybody has to prepare for. So up next, we have a mon that I'm surprised nobody picked yet in this format. One of the draft goats of Gen 9 with Stab, Rock Slide, Stab Knockoff. You know what? You love it. It's actually Bombardier. It's not Tyranitar. But basically, this is a Tyranitar with a better typing thanks to that Rocky Payload ability, so you gotta love that. Stats aren't anything too impressive. It does have a decent attack stat, but the move pool here and the utility is amazing. Getting Rock Stab without actually being a rock type is super cool and really unique. Makes it even more synergistic with Terra if you want to Terra Rock for extra damage. The way it scales, it's not just like tearing to a type that you already have. It's going to be the 1.5 boost instead of the 1.3 boost, so a little extra damage there. But we love Bombardier here. It may be ugly as sin, but, we forgive sinners in this family, right? Bombardier, just a big, powerful offensive piece with a good utility move pool. Looking to make a lot of use of it this season. Up next, we have something that really, I think, helps the team as a whole and really lets me get some scary combos going online pretty fast. So, what's the one thing you want with 2 Shell Smashers on your team? You're going to want Redirection, especially a Redirection that doesn't share any weaknesses with those 2. Electric Redirection is pretty rare. Elekid's dad and grandpa both got drafted last season and worked pretty well, so Elekid's going to prove his stuff this time around. And for being a baby, he actually has pretty good stats. 95 speed is really fast, especially in this format, and its defenses obviously aren't great, but special attack, it's not great, but it's good enough to get some stuff done. Attack and special attack being equal means you can have a little flex Elekid with a physical moveset or a special moveset, but honestly, it's just the supportive moves that we really like on this thing, and the synergy with some of the offensive pieces on this team I think work really well. And for our next pick, we pick up another mon that I drafted before. It was also a cursed member of the Season 12 team that was doomed to failure. So kind of making a apology run here with GLIMMORA and Galvantula. But why do we pick up Galvantula again? What does it have to offer? It's another electric type. Am I crazy? No, I don't think I am. Electric and Bug is one of the best combos, one of the best types to pair with Electric, and we really wanted an Electric type on this team because of how good Flying is expected to be in this format. It basically is going to hit every team super effective. That's kind of a big spoiler, unless you dropped a bunch of Rock types. But we'd like to see the combo of Electric with alongside Bug for its offensive potency, which is kind of crazy to say because Bug is not really all that when it comes to offense, but being able to hit the grass types that resist Electric, as well as Electric being able to hit the flying types, kind of like we said earlier, that hit Bug, it's a nice combo, and it's really good defensively too. Obviously, Galvantula is not a hit taker, that's not a stretch to say at all, but it has a good moveset, it's fast, speedy, quick. Did I mention it's fast? And it learns a lot of good moves, and it's a cute spider, so, you know, it's a win-win all around. And for our 9th pick, we have what was going to be my first pick, if I was able to get his dad. We have Garganackle Jr. here, aka Little Knacklestack, a really great mon that I think is going to put a good amount of time in on the squad. Knacklestack, what does it do? It does most of the same things that Garganackle does, but worse. But Garganackle is probably the best mon in the format, so having a worse version of it probably is not the worst thing on the planet. What do we have here? We have a mon with crazy defensive stats, at least on the physical side, which is the more important side for this format, keep in mind. But we're seeing 95th percentile physical defense, 75th with special defense. This is factoring in the Eviolite, which it'll probably be running, but it could also feasibly run a Leftovers in the right set of circumstances. Pretty low speed, which is what we like to see on a big bulky mon like this. And we have the all-important Salt Cure, really the only move this thing and his dad need. Just a good support mon, being able to click Salt Cure and secure endgames and just whittle them down with its crazy bulk. And it might actually be superior to Garganackle when you think about it, because every team playing a Garganackle is going to have Covert Cloak for sure somewhere on it, and you don't really pay Knacklestack the same respect in prep, so you might be able to hit things with Salt Cure that typically, if you were fighting a Garganackle, you'd have a little bit harder of a time getting through. So, just a thought. We'll see how it works out this season, but yeah, happy to have this thing on the team, and I really was kind of running out for things I needed my team to do, so a bulky Salt Cure, why not? Let's pick it up. For our second to last pick, we have a mon that I really thought wasn't going to be around this season. I feel like everybody's been underestimating Dugong for the longest time, but this thing is just a support beast. Look at all these brackets it fills out. Fake Out, Knockoff, Icy Wind, Helping Hand. There's also Haze on here, which is a pretty useful move in most circumstances. But what do we like about Dugong? We just like how much flexibility it offers. It has pretty decent stats all the way around in a classic Gen 1 fashion. Overall, it's pretty bulky, and having a ice type that still resists fire, thanks to Thick Fat, is pretty schnasty. The little type calculator thing doesn't work down there. I do not have a net ice weakness because this thing is 8 times resistant to ice. So, I mean, you can bring ice moves against me if you want. I'll happily switch Dugong into them, and we'll see how that goes. But Dugong's a great member, a really powerful late round pick. I'm surprised it lasted this long into the 10th round. And then for our last pick, we have Basculin. 2 picks in 1, that sounds like a deal to me. Basculin's just a more offensive water type because there's a whole bunch of water types left on the board, and I just wanted something that could dish out some good damage, so here we are. 92 attack's not the best, but adaptability bumps those numbers up pretty significantly. It's one of the few water types that learn Wave Crash, so you know, a win's a win. Basculin's not going to be around for long, but hey, it'll be like Emboar, right? It's going to just be a water type Emboar, hitting really hard with self-damaging moves, and as long as you die first, that's not a problem. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the Season 15 draft. Overall, very happy with how this team turned out. Definitely was not what I was envisioning from the get-go, but you know, we love what comes to us, and we're going to make the best out of it that we can, and I think we can go a long ways if we build and play well. So that's that. I'll see y'all in week 1, which is starting sooner rather than later, because I definitely took my time with this video. So yeah, that's that. I'll see y'all on the battlefield and next week.